Well, if it weren't for my old dogs and the good Lord, they'd have me strung up in the psych ward. 'Cause every day living in this new world is one too many days to me. Son, we're on the brink of the next world war, and I don't think nobody's praying no more. And I ain't saying I know it for sure. I'm just down on my knees begging the Lord to take me home. I wanna go home. I don't know which road to go. It's been so long. I just know I didn't used to wake up feeling this way, cussing myself every damn day. There's always some kind of bill to pay. People just doing what the rich man say. I wanna go home. Now 4 generations farming the ground. Grandson sells it to a man out of town. 2 weeks later, the trees go down. Only got concrete growing around. I wanna go home. I wanna go home. I don't know which road to go. It's been so long. I just know I didn't used to wake up feeling this way, cussing myself every damn day. People have really gone and lost their way. They all just do what the TV say. I wanna go home. If it weren't for my old dogs and the good Lord, they'd have me strung up in the psych ward.
You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Good evening, fellow harmful extremists. Another banger from our boy Oliver Anthony. Hopefully,
we played it. We played it before everyone else. that his first one.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get a copyright strike for that.
We'll see what it does.
If we do, worth it.
And people saying, they're playing Oliver Anthony on hardcore conservative. No, we're just his target demographic, guys who like hanging out with their dogs and fucking around in the woods.
People just who want to be left alone. I just want to grill, man.
And I don't understand the outcry against that dude.
Yeah, there's some people are like, oh, he's definitely a psyop. He's a psyop. And it's like, really? The dude lives in a trailer he bought off Craigslist that's a tarp for a roof. I don't think he's a psyop.
Yeah, you could see his shit box in the background. That's not an intentional shit box for a psyop. That's a shit box you build out of necessity.
Yeah, definitely. So he said he's turned down a couple of offers that are upwards of $8 million by some of the big labels, and the big label people are just like slack-jawed, like, why would you do that? And then I think that little quote, you kind of cut the video off right there at the end, but that Bible verse saying, for what shall it profit a man if he should lose his own soul?
Right.
I hope the best for him. And I also hope that he's one of those guys that's able to stay humble through everything, keep being what he is, and doesn't take the big money, even though it would be the easy way out.
Yeah, in the words of the prophet, Notorious B.I.G., more money, more problems.
That is definitely the case.
So, I mean, pretty clowny week. What'd you want to hit off with?
Probably the big news was last night's GOP debate. The big winner, obviously, of course, was Donald Trump.
Right. I mean, did you watch some of the debate?
Yeah, I watched several parts of it, and I also watched the Trump interview with Tucker that
Mhm.
I guess was filmed like a week ago.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. So,
Um, what my first take from watching the debate, the initial impression I got was the people that wanted to hang Pence. I don't condone it, but after watching that debate, I understand. What an insufferable prick.
yeah, he strikes me as the kind of guy who's like, oh, I was a senator for X years, and I was the vice president, so I deserve this. It's like channeling his inner Hillary Clinton or something. You're like, oh, it's my turn. It's like, no, it ain't, dude. Before you were vice president, nobody gave a fuck who you were.
Yeah, if there's anybody who's being run by super PACs and the people in funny hats, it's him.
Yeah, him and Chris Christie.
I don't understand how this guy keeps popping up. I mean, every presidential cycle, why are people giving this fat ass money? I
Well,
don't.
see, he's very buoyant. That's how he keeps popping up.
Yeah, you think all this time he'd be able to come up with a weight loss plan that sticks, so he's more presentable, but it hasn't worked out, I guess.
No, he's running. I don't think that even he thinks he's got any chance of doing any better than single digits. I think that his sole purpose in being there is to just trash talk Trump. And I think he's got like some PAC money or something behind him that's keeping his campaign afloat. His job is in there to shit talk Trump. And if last night's debates was any indicator, he's also shit talking Ramaswamy.
Kind
Who,
of seemed like everybody was shit talking Ramaswamy for some reason.
well, because he's the guy that's out front right now. For all of his merits and all of his foibles, Ron DeSantis kind of disappeared in the mix last night. He was kind of a non-entity, and when he did speak, it was all canned boilerplate Republican talking points in a stiff and robotic delivery. He did a good job. He is doing a good job running the state of Florida, but a debate stage is not his natural environment.
Mm. Well, and my words, I mean, I agree. I didn't find DeSantis very, he didn't put off that leadership quality. He seemed kind of canned. And then the part, I forget how the moderator worded it about how they would support Trump. He kind of looked around in his hand.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
yeah,
come on, at least go one way or another, dude. Don't be wishy-washy.
yeah. That's the thing that I liked about Ramaswamy is anytime they had one of those raise your hand questions or whatever, he was just hand high up in the air. This is my
Yeah,
answer, and I'm proud of it.
at
And
least
the
he's
thing that
committed.
Yeah, and the one that really struck me as being like a fist pump moment was when they asked, "Does anybody on the stage oppose giving more to Ukraine?" And he was dead center of the stage and the only one with his hand high up in the air. So I was like,
I must have missed that part. I either went to get his snackies or something. He was the only one who was against Ukraine.
yeah. And it's not that he's against Ukraine; it's just that
I mean, against sending funding. Yeah.
yeah, he recognizes that it's a lost cause. You can't keep it up forever. We can send them all the money and tanks and bombs and guns in the world, but if they don't have any men to actually use it, which is looking like it's increasingly the case, then it doesn't do any good. And
I mean, that's a great way to set yourself apart right there, even.
yeah, hey, Simon's in the chat, so he must be done with his thing with Australia. So
Okay.
I'm going to send him the link, and then we could pull him in for in a little bit to talk about this BRICS because
Yeah.
he's been on top of it, like following it like normal people follow sporting events.
Sure.
And and so he knows more about it than I do. I know practically nothing about it, and we'll go with it from there.
Well, I'm hoping this whittles out some of the field after this. A couple of the people at the rear of the pack. If you have a breakout at a debate, that might move you up. But like Asa Hutchinson, and I've already forgot his name, the guy from North Dakota, seemed nice enough, but yeah, it's not for you, dude.
Yeah, the four that I think, like, if you held a gun to my head and said one of the people on stage who won and who was the biggest loser, Ramaswamy, head and shoulders above everybody else out there. His answers were delivered better. They sounded smarter. They sounded like they were done with more conviction, and they sounded like something that he came up with, not some think tank.
Right.
The biggest losers. Asa Hutchinson, who cares? Like you're right. The North Dakota guy, like Bagram or something like that, whatever his Brogum or whatever his name is. Everybody forgets that guy. Mike Pence made an ass out of himself. Chris Christie made an ass out of himself. They need to go before they embarrass themselves even further, if that's even possible. Like this is what the way that Dan Bongino puts it is. He says that there's 3 lanes that are going on because Trump is pretty much a shoo-in at this point to be the Republican nomination. Everybody else is running in one of 3 lanes. You've got the guy who is angling to be vice president. That's one lane. You've got the guy who is angling for a Fox News contributorship or their own TV show on Fox News. And then you got the guys like Chris Christie who are just there to basically be an asshole to spoil it for everybody else.
My only concern with Ramaswamy is, he's smart and he's really good at thinking on his feet. It could all be just a big bullshit act.
Could be.
That's the only concern I have. He has no political record to back up what he says.
Yeah, true. But then again, neither did Trump.
Right.
And I am getting the feel from Ramaswamy that he is channeling a lot of what made Trump popular in 2015 and 2016. The way that he speaks, the conviction that he uses to get his points across. A lot of his positions are very Trumpian, and that is resonating. Now, whether or not he actually believes that he has a chance of beating Trump in the primaries, that goes without saying. He does seem pretty confident about it. Most people are saying that either him or Ron DeSantis needs to be the vice president. Personally, this is just my 2 cents. I think Ron DeSantis needs to stay in Florida and keep running that state in the stellar fashion that he's doing. And I think that the vice presidency being largely a useless position unless the president dies, I think Ramaswamy would be better suited in some type of cabinet position where he has the authority and the ability to actually enact some of the things that he wants to do.
Well, and I think another lane there there is still a chance that, it could go sideways for Trump and they manage to get him thrown in jail through a kangaroo court, and then it's anybody's ball game. It's not like everybody needs to angle to be Trump's second-hand man or woman. But we'll see how that goes. And it seemed like a lot of the polls agreed on what we both thought. Ramaswamy was, above the rest. Some people said Nikki Haley. Messianic Monarchist over here said biggest duck up goes to Nikki Haley, though. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, you'll have to expound on that a little bit, because everything that I saw of her was just kind of like eye roll, like why are you even up on stage here? I forgot.
She wasn't shitty. She wasn't good. She just kind of maintained. And it seemed to me like everybody's going to come out of that debate kind of in the same spot, except you seem to insinuate that Ramaswamy was ahead of DeSantis at this point.
Yeah. A couple of polls are putting him above DeSantis. DeSantis is he's doing good, but he's not doing great.
Mhm.
Whereas Ramaswamy is doing great.
Yeah.
And yeah, this isn't one of those games where okay is okay enough.
But he's still got to cover what 30 or 40 points on Trump at this point.
Yeah.
So I would expect. I mean, I think Trump. I know a lot of people were wondering what the hell Trump was doing, but it seems like with debates anymore, if you're in the lead, there's no point in going to him, and it doesn't seem to affect you if you don't go. I mean, we saw that here in Nebraska. The governor candidate that was in the lead, he didn't go to a single debate, and yet he won.
Yeah.
I think Trump is probably. It's not Israel that needs America. It's America that needs Israel to protect us from who? I suppose she's going to say Iran's a big scary bad guy that Israel's holding back the hordes on.
Yeah, I remain skeptical. I press X to doubt, and I say citation needed, please.
Do you have a source?
Exactly. I'm gonna go full Reddit here, be like source. Yeah. And Ed said that if they start pushing the coof hard again, DeSantis will pull in front. Yeah, he could definitely use his record on the coof.
And that would probably hurt Trump. I mean, I don't remember anybody in the debate last night mentioning Trump's fuck ups when it came to Fauci or COVID. Did I miss that part, or did they actually?
I don't think so. If there would have been a place to actually lay that out, that would have been DeSantis's ball to throw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember hearing it, but I was kind of listening tangentially.
And I kind of wonder if there was any things that the GOP was like, hey, this is off target to rip into Trump on. And that would be a good one that the GOP might say, hey, no bringing up that we fucked up on Fauci, because they bought into it just as hard as the Dems did.
That, and with Fox News's main advertisers being pharmaceutical industries, they could have seen. No, I'm serious. They could have seen anything talking about Fauci or Trump messing up with that. They could have easily spiraled into safe and effective, not necessarily.
I think they're holding that card for later. Ed says. I mean, the GOP could have told Fox News, let's save this for when we need to hit Trump on something if we get him within striking range. Yeah. And kind of off topic, but we mentioned. I mean, you and I both wander into Reddit. One of the things that people from Europe can't seem to understand when they come to America is all these commercials on TV for prescription grade drugs. They're like, why? And Redditors are clueless, so they don't know. But I mean, all those are on TV. You're basically bribing. That's how the pharmaceutical companies bribe the media.
Yeah, don't if this ends up being dangerous, don't cover it like you would normal, or if any of our products do. Because that's the thing, when you're dealing with especially a prescription medication, why do you need to advertise it to anybody but a doctor?
Has any asshole ever went to their doctor and been like, "Hey doc, I saw this commercial. Should I be taking this?"
Yeah, exactly. It's just bribery. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Ed said they're holding that card for later in the game, which we talked. Yeah, so that'll be held. And speaking of Trump, he wasn't there, but he was somewhere else. He said he was there a week earlier, I guess. I didn't realize that's when they filmed it.
Yeah, they filmed it last Friday. That's what Simon told me yesterday. They filmed the Tucker interview, and I just watched that while I was cooking dinner tonight, and it was pretty good. One of the things that kind of struck me is that Trump is still shit-talking Ron DeSantis a little bit. So I think even if DeSantis ends up being the second place front runner behind him, I don't think that Trump is going to give him the VP nod, which, as I said before, is actually preferable to me because Florida is being run great. And if you take DeSantis out, who knows what will go on down in Florida.
Right. I see Simon's in the lobby, so we can get him thrown up here later when we get to BRICS.
Okay.
So the Trump interview, I mean, there wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was Trump. I mean,
yeah.
It was just more of the same. I mean, you know what you're getting with Trump. He had his same Trump rambling stories. Nothing to really just throw some meat to his base and good to go.
Yep. He bragged on himself, talked up his accomplishments, said that a lot of the problems that are going on in the country right now wouldn't even be happening if he was still the president. He shit talked Asa Hutchinson particularly.
Yeah, I know.
I was like that poor guy just can't catch a break. He's a nobody. Yeah. He's a walking mat right now. But one thing that I thought was good for him, and hopefully it's a sign that he's going to be changing direction, is there was not one mention of how wonderful and great Operation Warp Speed was. We saved hundreds of millions of lives. You know, we got vaccines in people's arms. It's like, no. Yeah, none of that. Not even a whiff of it. So that's good. Maybe somebody's telling him that he needs to just kind of, cut that shit out.
Yeah, he seemed a little tempered too on he's figured out what he can and can't pull off as president. He's not just throwing crazy ideas out there. He knows what he can and can't do at this point. Mm-hmm. And who he'd have to get rid of. Yep. But I thought Tucker was a little easy on him. He didn't really ask. I thought Tucker would be the guy to ask him about Fauci, but maybe Trump told him it's off limits.
That's a possibility too. The thing that I've noticed about Tucker in some of the other interviews that he's done, and I don't know if this is something that he does as an interview tactic to keep the interviewees on their toes, or if it's just his style to just like rapid fire through bullet points or whatever. But he will, he'll ask a question, he'll get the guy talking, and then the guy will be like at kind of a natural pause in the speech, and then Tucker will ask another question, just rapid fire, drop it off, that has absolutely nothing to do with what they were just talking about. And I can see that as being an interview tactic that keeps your interviewee on their toes while also eliciting an off-the-cuff response, right? Because if you have an outline of the questions that you're going to be asked, and they go in a, more or less a flow, then that's one thing. But if you're asked something about like domestic monetary policy and you give out your answer and then it immediately switches to like, and let's talk about the war in Ukraine, you're more likely to give an honest answer rather than a pre-prepared canned answer. So it makes for a weird style of interview, but at the same time, it also makes for a more honest style of interview.
Yeah, like when he kind of jumped into Epstein. I forget what they were talking about before it, but he jumped into it, and he tried to get Trump to give his opinion on Epstein. Yeah. And you can tell Trump is a little gun shy on, Epstein not killing himself doesn't seem like a conspiracy theory to me, but Trump didn't want to come out and say that, Epstein was killed. And I'm sure that's because he's gun shy from being tied to the whole QAnon psyop. And it really, he still gets tainted for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. So we actually have two speculations over here. Simon says that Tucker's style is a jovial disarming tactic, and Ed says it's an interrogation tactic that you see in cops more than journalists, which is peculiar. Considering that Tucker's father was an agency man, it's not really that peculiar. You might have just picked something up from the old man.
He did keep Trump on his toes. I just feel like he was not hitting on some stuff. Maybe he was being respectful to Trump, that Trump said, if I come on, you're not going to hit on these topics. So who knows?
Yeah. And that is a big get, and I can see, Tucker's still trying to break into his own solo thing on X.com now. He's got a slick new logo, and he's building his own little media empire over there. And, that's a big score. Getting the former
Rumble was a GOP partner for that debate. So that was interesting that, there's the GOP starting to embrace the alternative media at this point.
Yep.
And, Trump kind of talked on that on Tucker's interview about how all the old media, they're like, why wouldn't you go on TV? And he's like, TV's dying. Why? He's like, MSNBC's going to the toilet. CNN's in the toilet. He said, obviously Fox sucks because they fired you, Tucker. And, why would you go to a debate on TV unless you're looking to gain something? And, Vivek has probably done a lot better than the other candidates in embracing social media. And alternative media. And I think that probably really helped him out in this debate, because you're going to get asked those weird questions when you go on some podcast on Rumble.
Yeah.
Whereas all the rest of them up there, which are sitting in their office and their staff is feeding them answers, they're not going to get that same interaction. So I think that might've been what helped him out too.
Yeah. And Vivek has been making a lot of podcasts, and just YouTubers, Tim Pool. He did one. Right. He did one the other day with Colion Noir. Who that is?
Oh wow! I'll have to catch it. Yeah.
They just sat down and talked Second Amendment issues, which I thought was like really like a personal, like face-to-face interview type of thing. And so I haven't watched it yet, but I plan on doing it one of these days. And so he's just been talking to YouTubers, podcasters, doing the social media thing. He is young, so this is kind of more his forte than probably any of the other candidates.
Well, him and DeSantis are about the same age, aren't they?
No, DeSantis I think is close to 50, and I think Vivek is like 36.
Oh, is he close to 50?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think Vivek is younger than me.
Oh wow! Okay. Yeah. I thought he was older than that for some reason.
No, he's like close.
I mean, that's not outside of DeSantis's wheelhouse of being able to go to that stuff. But he just doesn't seem like the guy that would. I've never seen him on a long form. Has he ever been on a long form anything? He doesn't seem like the guy that would be able to keep that interesting for that amount of time.
Yeah, I think Ron DeSantis is the type of guy who really shouldn't be seen or heard. I think he's more of a doer than a speaker, and just let the guy work. He doesn't need to be in front of a camera.
And his voice is weird, and not in like Bobby Kennedy Jr. weird, where it's rough, and after you listen to it, it grows on you. His voice, it comes off as kind of whiny, and the more you hear it, you're like, oh, there's just something there.
Yeah.
But the Trump arraignment, I mean, we hit on Trump. Might as well roll right into that arraignment. Did he get, I assume he got his mugshot today.
Oh, I didn't send it to you, did I?
No.
I sent it to...
It wasn't out by the time I went to the gym, so I might have missed it.
Yeah, I sent it to through the group chat. Let me dig it up here real quick.
I mean, I hope it was a massive grin.
No, actually it wasn't, and I'm very disappointed that it was not a massive grin, because I think that would have been great. One of his staffers was also actually it was Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis.
I saw Giuliani's. He looked like he just got busted for trying to pick up prostitutes when he was standing there.
Well, Jenna Ellis had a big shit-eating grin on it in her mugshot, but Trump's mugshot, he looks like it was like, I am going to kill every single one of you if given the chance. It's pretty good.
Jeez, yeah, that's I'm gonna own Cell Block C if I get thrown in here sort of mugshot.
Well, he's going to own whichever cell block he gets into, because the Secret Service is going to have to shut down whatever wing of a prison he goes to. And that was another tactic of that Bongino said he needs to embrace, is don't post bond. Make them put you in jail. Make them the Secret Service do their chartered duties to protect the president by shutting down the entire prison. It's like, you want to fuck around,
you'll bankrupt Fulton County.
Exactly. Yeah. And Messianic Minarchist over here said that Trump mugshot shirts will do more for the economy than Biden economics has for the past 3 years.
You're not. Here, I'll throw it up here quick for those that haven't seen it. There he is.
Yep. You're fired. Oh man.
That's an interesting choice. That's an interesting choice he went with. He had to think about it and decide. That's the best way to go with it.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be like, with the little placard with his name and everything. It'd be like, But I guess we
I know
can't
in
get
our local
everything we want.
newspaper or in our local news site, whenever they put up mugshots, it's always the people smiling that get the best comments. So
Yeah.
if you ever go to jail, crack a smile, unless it's for something disgusting.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we pull Simon in here is, and he could probably touch on this a little bit more too, is the Wagner chief Prigozhin got shot down allegedly. Was
All
he
right.
on the plane?
So did you see the video that it looked like a missile went streaking towards the plane?
I did not.
So it was some kids outside and they're just filming other stuff, and they hear something up in the sky and they point their camera up, and it's Prigozhin's plane, and the engine is on fire, and you can see there's two streaks of smoke. So there's like a smoke that looks like something hit it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes behind trees, and then you see another person further away, and they have video footage of the plane, and at that point it's wings off and it's just doing a death spiral down to the ground. So it's like they hit it once and then it got hit again, is what it would look like to me, who's never shot a SAM at a aircraft. But it seems like engines exploding and blowing your wing clear off isn't just a thing that happens.
Yeah. So I've heard two conflicting things. Was that one that was shot down by an anti-aircraft missile, and the other thing that I heard was that there was actually a bomb snuck on board in a case of wine that was detonated to blow the plane out of the sky. I don't know which is true.
Well, it seems like the engine wouldn't be on fire. I mean, if you have a bomb within the cargo hold, the engine on fire is what makes it seem like a SAM to me. I mean, they're heat seeking, so it's going to go right into the damn engine. Yeah. I wish I tried to find that video again too, but it seems like they've been scrubbing that video off. I mean, I saw it like 10 minutes after it was reported, and it was on some Russian Twitter channel or something, and that these videos were on, and that it disappeared.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I don't know. More stuff that comes out, we'll get it as it comes out. Prigozhin has faked his death in the past. He was declared dead in 2019 in Africa, only to pop back up still alive. So who knows? The guy could have known something.
Yeah, what they say this time, I guess he's missing a couple fingers on his hand, and one of the bodies, they checked the DNA and it was missing a couple fingers. So who knows? Who knows what can come? I mean, anything reported out of Russia could be compromised, just like anything out of America. But we'll get Simon's opinion on that. What do we got over here in the chat? If he's cleared and he sports a mugshot at a rally, it won't matter how many voting machines. Yeah. I'm sure Trump is going to put that on billboards or.
Oh yeah. Look at what they did to you, boy.
Yeah. So let's bring Simon in and get his opinion on the whole Prigozhin thing, and hear what's new at BRICS. So let's drop him up here.
All right.
He's joining 3, 2, 1. Simon, are you there?
Yes, I am. How's it going, guys?
It's going great.
Hey.
So I assume you've been reading all the BRICS news, and
I was just on a show in Australia for an hour and 45 minutes, and the guy asked me, "Do you have any thoughts?" I laughed for about 3 minutes, and they had to go to ads. So, yes, is the answer. Prigozhin appears to now. One can take the view that this operation was planned well in advance, but on the other hand, his itinerary wouldn't have been known. But the key issue here is that he gave a prepared speech in the middle of the desert in North Mali. Okay. And in that speech, he said that Wagner would be Russia's representative for the rest of the world, which was probably a little bit too sticking your neck out. Okay. Then there's also been an issue about the Russian government have incorporated a new private military company. They were trying to recruit guys away from Wagner, and Wagner was saying, no, don't go and work for the state, stay with us, we'll make you all rich. And what a lot of people don't understand is that Wagner were taking like share options and, you know, give us 10% of this mine and pay all the money to United Arab Emirates, where supposedly they had like massive multi-billion-dollar bank accounts. And so it really was a classical mercenary company in much the same way. Have you guys ever watched Dogs of War?
Yeah. Great
right?
movie.
Or, yeah, great movie. Have you watched the other version, Wild Geese? Okay. So Wild Geese is like 1982 or something like that. And the plot in that movie is a president is deposed. This European mining corporation, this is very similar to the situation in Niger at the moment, right? Wants that president to be reinstated. They send a whole load of mercenaries. And then whilst they're in country with the ex-president in custody, the new African administration cuts a beneficial deal with the European Mining Consortium, and they decide that the new guy is much better than the old guy, and they reveal all the tracking information for their mercenary force, and they get shot to shit. And that's literally 1982, and that movie is called Wild Geese.
Wild
And
Geese. So maybe Putin's seen that.
That has Richard Burton and Richard Harris and Edward Fox. That was a big movie in its day. I'm a little bit older than you guys, and so I'm very familiar with it. But that is very, very much like the kind of situation that's going on now in Niger. And indeed, what we've now seen in Ghana, where interestingly the British Foreign Secretary was about 2 weeks ago, there's a big lithium discovery there. And that's the same company, Australia One International, that has got interests in Ukraine and in Austria. And they had some ludicrous deal to pay 6% royalties to the Ghanaian government when there basically was like exploration as opposed to discovery. Mm-hmm. And now the government's saying we want 10%, which is still like a super freaking deal for this Australian organization. And they're refusing to increase it from 6 to 10. So there might be a big coup or fight in Ghana as well. So, you know, it's like, I appreciate you guys didn't have time to like watch all of this kind of like trivia. I mean, just to give you an idea of kind of like how deep I'm diving into this stuff, I've just started reading the 1976 book called The Brown River God, which is about the exploration of the River Niger in the 19th century.
Well, I guess when you get into BRICS, how is this going to affect how do you think this will affect the upcoming presidential election? Well, since we've been getting into that.
It is an interesting concept because Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, like 2 days ago, he gave a press conference and he said, BRICS isn't against the United States or any group of our friends, which was clearly whistling past the graveyard. I mean, that's just like, you know, total misinformation. Now, the Iranians and the Chinese today have both accused the American government of engaging in cognitive warfare, which is the modern phrase of propaganda. So that's real interesting as well. But one of the big issues that's arisen from the BRICS summit, and there's a lot we could talk for hours, which I know you don't want to do. So
Right.
Is that they added 6 countries.
I saw that. And one of them I thought was really interesting was Argentina.
Yeah, so there's 2 obvious choices, which are Iran and Saudi Arabia. UAE, which is a marginal because they have disputes with Saudi Arabia and with Iran. So that's an immediate flashpoint, right? Now, the other 3 countries, which are just flat out crazy, like, your drunk monkeys throwing darts, like in the dark, right? Were Ethiopia, which has a small economy. They're basically in a civil war, and, somebody span a ball and it landed on E, and England wasn't eligible, so they ended up with Ethiopia, right? Then you had Argentina, which is another Bart raving mad choice because they've got like 100% inflation. They didn't even send a delegation to the meeting. Instead, they were in Washington begging for more money from the IMF. And when the Argentinian minister was asked about the prospects of joining BRICS, he said, well, it would be a bit awkward being in 2 families at once. So somehow, despite the fact they weren't even there, they got into BRICS. So that's just flat out weird, right? And then the other one was Egypt, which is a military dictatorship allied to Israel and America and on the verge of bankruptcy. So who the hell picked that?
Yeah,
and the 3 countries that weren't included, that a lot of Russians and I were anticipating, were Kazakhstan, Algeria, and Indonesia. Now, supposedly 2 of those were on the short list for the next annual meeting in Kazan, which is going to be run by the Russians next year. But everyone was like, what the hell? You've brought these countries in that are allied to America and Israel that are on the verge of bankruptcy. Like Argentina, they've got this guy who looks like a 1970s French porn star called Malay, right? He has said that if he's elected in 7 or 8 weeks during the October Argentinian presidential elections, that he'll completely sever all economic connections with China, who obviously is effectively the leader of BRICS, right? And on top of that, he said that he doesn't negotiate with communists. And he could be the fucking president of Argentina in a few weeks.
Yeah, and also, that he was pushing using backing of the American dollar. It seems so weird that Argentina...
Complete dollarization of the Argentinian economy, as opposed to what everyone else wants, which is de-dollarization.
Is that because this guy has such a chance? They're trying to pull what they did to Trump. We're going to fuck it up so bad on the way out because it looks like this guy's going to win. Let's join BRICS.
Well, one could argue that they've literally put the Argentinian people in an impossible position. And it's vote for a socialist, pro-Chinese person, or it's total Armageddon. Yeah. So you could take that view. But there's also a timing issue in whether or not... so these countries have been invited, and it's in contract law, offer and acceptance, right? So they've applied, but they weren't accepted. Their interest was acknowledged. Now they've been invited. Now they have to go through the accession process. So it's conceivable that if he gets elected in October, that they'll pull the invitation and they'll give it to Indonesia or Kazakhstan instead. So that is a distinct possibility. But in terms of overall population, not Kazakhstan, sorry, Indonesia was an extraordinary omission. And Algeria had offered $1.5 billion to join the BRICS Bank, which was basically outbidding Egypt, who had offered $1.2 billion.
I think I'm owed reparations by Algeria, though, since I'm white and they enslaved white people. So they better set some of that aside.
Yeah, it could be either Morocco or Argentina. Do you have a detailed record of how many times your relatives have been butt fucked? Because that's gonna be an important factor, right?
Right. So here's I guess a question that I have. So you and the Russians were anticipating the invitation for Kazakhstan and Indonesia, and they went with Argentina instead. Now, Argentina being what they've got going on with their presidential election, this absolute wild man, this Javier Milei, or however his last name is pronounced. Do you think that they didn't go with the safer bets of Kazakhstan and Indonesia, and they went with the possible upsetting Argentina because of what's going on in their politics, or is it more of a geographical strategy, them being in South America?
So Brazil is basically the biggest economy in Argentina, and Lula da Silva, the new president, has been talking about essentially merging the economies of Brazil and Argentina.
Really?
So for him, getting Argentina in was a really, really big deal politically, but economically, it's just flat out madness. And the fact that, they sent nobody, they didn't send the goat herder's ex-wife, right? They sent nobody to BRICS to even say, all the other countries, they had a prime minister or a foreign minister say thank you so much, and it's an honor to be invited, and we can't wait, and death to the Americans, right?
Right.
But Argentina, there was literally nobody there. So, that was extremely odd. You'd have thought that even at a day's notice, they'd have put some weather forecaster with a short skirt and a low cut top on a fast flying jet to say, tomorrow it's going to be scorchio.
I see you're a man of culture also with your South American weather girls.
Yeah. There's some real famous British comedy about Argentinian weather girls, and the only weather forecast is scorchio, repeated many times over. But obviously, with the global boiling, everywhere it's scorchio now, right?
Yeah, everywhere.
Obviously.
It was definitely scorchio today while I was working.
I think it's interesting that you brought up that they didn't bring in Indonesia, because that kind of fits with some of their other countries. They have a population that's younger, developing kind of in that same sphere with India.
So there's two things about Indonesia. So the president, on the why didn't it happen side, the president of Indonesia, before he got to South Africa, went to Kenya like the president of Iran had done a couple of weeks ago. Then he went to Tanzania. So both of those countries have East African ports that the Chinese have helped develop. Okay. Then he went to Mozambique, which has got a big liquefied natural gas facility that is very significant for the Asian energy market. Okay. So looking at that, you'd have said Indonesia is a shoe-in, and just kind of how many halls do they have booked to celebrate?
Right.
But on the flip side, days before this, they just did a deal to buy a whole load of Black Hawk helicopters and F-15EX models. So all these countries are like, oh, you just did an arms deal with the Americans, so we can't trust you. So frankly, that timing of that deal seemed like fantastically bad. All they had to do was literally like wait like 3 or 4 days. And at the same time, Indonesia is the current president of the ASEAN, who are having their summit on the September 5th to the 7th in Jakarta.
Now, the United States has been trying to wedge into that one, haven't they?
The United States has been trying to wedge into Indonesia since 1965.
Right.
With varying degrees of success, including having Barack Obama born there, right? So, I mean, you know, they've definitely been playing the long game there.
Yeah. I guess one last thing we'd like you to hit on, and if you can give us the Simon 5-minute version, if it's possible, is what's new in Niger.
It's Niger. Okay. So, the African Union had their Peace and Security Council meet last week, and they were supposed to have put out their resolution, like a Security Council resolution. They even have 15 countries on their Security Council, but none of them are permanent members and none of them have vetoes. Okay? So the word is that only 4 out of the 15 countries voted to invade. And the problem, particularly for Nigeria, is they don't have a United Nations Security Council resolution giving them legal cover. And they don't have an African Union Security Council resolution giving them legal cover. And they don't want to end up at The Hague with the International Criminal Court like Putin. Okay? So they ummed and ahed. Supposedly the word is the Americans and the French were trying to persuade 4 out of the 15 countries to switch, so it would be like 8 to 7 in order to go ahead. But they weren't able to do that. So instead they had to throw the issue into the long grass, or like kicking the can down the alleyway, I think is the other metaphor, right? Where they said, oh, we want our government civil servants to give us a report on what the economic, social, mental, gender, will it cause the earth to fall off its axis report at some point in the next 50 years in order that we can decide whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Okay? So for the time being, that has been delayed. Now, it's been suggested by the Algerians that the French have asked permission to use Algerian airspace in order to launch airstrikes against Niger army facilities, and the Algerians have said no. So then the issue is whether they were going to fly through Libya or they were going to fly through Morocco. And if they went through Morocco, then they were going to have to go through Mali. Now, Mali is where Wagner were, and they're also super anti the French. So Mali was very, very dicey, though it's debatable how good their air defense systems were. So then they had to go through Libya. And once again, Libya were very, very involved with Wagner. So in both of those countries, if hypothetically one were temporarily a conspiracy theorist, it would be extremely beneficial for certain members of the European Union and the US government if Wagner were decapitated and
well, that's a coincidence.
Defense systems in either Mali or in Libya were suddenly deactivated. So it's the usual story of everything being complicated.
A bunch of webs all over the place. And you kind of made it
all over the place.
You kind of made a joke, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of the first actions of the Biden administration into the situation in Niger is to have a study done on the effects on the transgender youth of Niger.
No. That's the entire basis of US foreign policy. It's the acceptance of abortion and homosexuality and transgenderism. You made
Which
a
goes
joke,
great in Africa,
but it's
I'm sure.
actually U.S. foreign policy. That's point number one and point number two. Now, ironically, today is Ukraine Independence Day, and about 10 or 12 countries had all their foreign ministers on a Zoom call singing collectively, very off-key, the Ukrainian national anthem. And even before I had had an entire bottle of wine to drink, I sent them a YouTube video saying, was this how it goes, with the video and lyrics of Horst Wessel, which was the Nazi marching song
Yeah.
from the 1930s.
I mean, I know nothing about that.
You haven't memorized the lyrics? I would have thought that was part of your indoctrination in the military. Get 7 shots and learn these lyrics.
Yeah, all of it. And what was the other German marching song? Oh shoot,
My Comrade.
I forget it, but it's the common one. Well, that pretty much. I mean, that gives. Oh, Erica. The German marching song Erica. Everybody knows that one. We'll play it for the pre-show next week.
Yeah, the YouTube version of Horst Wessel is actually very, very good. There's only one clip in it where they show the Russians instead of the Germans. But from a purely historical interest perspective, it is actually a very fine rendition with English lyrics, so you can sing along.
Well, you kept that right about 5 minutes, Simon, and that was great. I mean, you showed the webs. I didn't even consider Libya and Mali getting involved. And, this whole thing has showed me how much I haven't realized how much France is still fucking around in Africa either. But we can hit that on another show.
Sure.
France's involvement in Africa still.
Guys, may I say, it's been a real pleasure. Seriously. I mean, I just did like a crazy hour and 45 minutes on this Australian show, went through like 20 topics. It was like really intense. Mm-hmm. But we've actually covered, I appreciate it's been all very jovial, but we have actually covered quite a lot of serious topics, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon.
Always a pleasure, Simon.
And also, everybody, thanks for watching us. Chat was active on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. I don't know. Fuck you, Facebook. We'll be back next week. Hobbs, you have an extra show next week too. Do you want to plug that while we got all these people here? 2 weeks. No, 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now on the 8th, I'm going to be interviewing on my Friday show the CEO and the social media guy for Arid Defense USA. They are a small manufacturing company that focuses on the Steyr AUG platform. I think that'll be really interesting because the AUG is a timeless classic Austrian service rifle. And I'm still kind of working things out, but possibly on the 1st of September, I'm going to be hopefully talking to Nelson McElviny, the CEO of Sentry H2O water purification company. That is still kind of up in the air. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but it had to be actually it's supposed to be last week, but it needed to be pushed back. I think he's doing something in Maui right now. So best of luck to him. I mean, maybe I'll get him on the 1st. Maybe it'll be some. I'm just speculating. That's kind of why I think it was. Hey, last minute we got to cancel the wildfires in Maui. Yeah. I think that might be what he's doing. So if that is the case, then Godspeed, man, and keep doing the Lord's work.
All right, yeah. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks, Simon. Me and Hobbs. You know what we say. Here it is. Stay honky.